Hi Clay,
Hey.
thank you very much for joining me on Actors Making It.
Thank you.
So, look, I guess I've had a little bit of a look at your profile.
Okay.
From what you said, I mean, don't get me wrong, I haven't delved and watched absolutely everything that you've done. I've watched your show reels and stuff.
Cool.
But your website tells me that you've been acting for a good 20 years
Yes.
or so.
Yep.
What, I don't know how old you are, so I won't ask the question, but I'm imagining that puts you quite young when you started.
Yeah.
What brought you or attracted you to the big crazy world of acting?
I didn't actually know anything about acting. Like, it was obviously film and TV, what we saw on, as kids.
Yeah.
And that was, to me, it just piqued my interest. It was like, oh, well, that looks like an interesting thing to do. But where I lived at the time, it seemed like a far away thing as
Okay.
well. Like, it was like, you had to be born into it, or you had to live in America, or something like that. And so I guess what brought me into it basically was just the interest of finding out what it was all about.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's pretty much what it was for me.
Wow.
I grew up in a working class sort of community, so we had like experience with theatre, for example, very limited. So I wasn't able to have the full sort of brunt of that sort of cultural, immersion that so maybe someone who lives in the inner city of Melbourne might have,
Right.
in contrast to where I lived, that sort of thing.
So what was how did you first get into acting then? What was your first bit of exposure?
Well, my mum saw an ad for an extras agency,
Okay.
and she said, well, you always wanted to be an actor, because I was a class clown at school. I'm kind of segueing.
Still are.
But yeah, exactly. And so I called them up and they said, come in, and I went in. I thought it was a normal job interview, so I went in a suit, and everyone was dressed in like thongs and t-shirts and everything. I'm like, what is this? And it was like, so it was an extras agency in the inner city, and it was like middle of summer, fans are whirling, like a drug hideout in the middle of South America. Everyone's sweating. I had an interview with the lady who was running the extras agency, and she was happy with everything. And so they said, oh, just go in the next room, get your headshot done. So I got my headshot done, and pretty much I saw her on the way out. She said, we'll call you. I was like, oh, okay. And 2 weeks later, I was on the set of All Saints as a protester.
Wow, amazing.
Just an extra, and I'm like excited by like what's going on and the energy around me and the crew moving around and the energy of the actors, rehearsing and talking to the directors, and then they're off, getting a coffee by the coffee station, and just the process of seeing everyone working together was exciting,
Wow. Yeah, I remember the first time I was on a TV set, which was in the UK, and I think it was for Hollyoaks.
Yeah.
And I remember I was an extra, and I just remember being like, wow, this is insane. I mean, there was also, I think, the 8-hour day that I was there, I was probably sitting in the green room for about 7 of those 8 hours, but what I did see on set was pretty cool.
I don't know what it is. It's like, someone described it to me as like a fishbowl effect. Like, it's like people, if you see a film set, it's like you're looking in on the fishbowl while all the fish are doing their thing inside.
Yeah.
And it has a similar thing, but once you're inside, you're like, wow, is this what it's like? And it's like its own little world.
Yeah.
And that's what fascinated me as well. That sort of microcosm of energy and exuberance that you see with, filmmaking. It's, quite
Cool.
fun,
So get up here. Kevin has come to annoy, as always. Lay down. Okay, cool. So straight on to, how old were you at that point?
I was 19.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So from starting out then as an extra, what was the journey that you took from there? Once you kind of like, okay, I'm on set, this is fucking brilliant. What was your next step?
I was asking a lot of questions. So there were like other actors or extras there that I would say, hey, how'd you get here? What's the industry's like? So I was kind of like prodding and poking. So that was kind of the next step. And then once I was able to kind of get a bearing on what people were doing, like I started learning about drama schools and other agencies that were managing like actual actors as opposed to extras. once I started to suss that out, then I started to take the next step, which was to find training.
Okay.
So I found this little theatre, it's the Pilgrim Theatre in the city on Pitt Street. So it's near the Criterion pub.
Okay.
And there was a course there called City Drama Studio. They were doing like a sort of half, it was like a repertory theatre. So it was half doing plays, the other half doing script analysis, actor training, that sort of thing. So I did 3 terms there, which encompassed a full year of training. We did a lot of improv, Stanislavski and so on and so forth, but we were working with the script as we were learning.
Right.
So it was very hands-on. We didn't have any sort of, it wasn't like just learn the process, but with nothing to show for it.
Yeah, sure. So how long did you say that was for?
That was for 1 year.
1 year, okay, cool. I started a performing arts degree when we're living in the UK and I was in my early 20s and it was horrendous.
Yeah.
It was all theory, hated it. So something more practical, sounds like what you're talking about, would be
much more ideal, yeah.
Yeah.
I like to learn by doing. I'm not someone who can sit in a classroom and watch and listen to a lecture.
I'm the same. I think Winston Churchill says that experience is the teacher of all things. So I'm on board with that, with that concept. Is that the only training that you've done, or have you found that over the last 20 years that the training is an ongoing?
It was an ongoing thing for me. So after that, I pursued other courses. I applied for drama school as well, and so I found that I didn't get into drama school.
Okay.
Because I started getting work from that point on, and I thought, well, if I'm getting work and I'm getting seen by casting directors, what's the point? Because of 3 years that I just kind of block out. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to stick with it and keep doing what I'm doing, because obviously I'm kind of doing something right if I'm being seen. So I thought I'd just keep going with that. And there was probably a block between 2005 till 2008 where I just did no training whatsoever. I was just solely just work.
Solid.
So I was just doing like either a commercial or a 50-worder or a bit of theatre with a community theatre group or whatever I could to just get my hands on a role and just be constantly working. And I came to a bit of a crisis in all that until 2008, because I stopped getting the roles. So I was going to castings, not getting anything. I was going to auditions, not getting anything. And I was like, what's going on? And to me, I think I plateaued with the way I was doing things.
Okay.
And so my technique needed more work. So from 2008 onwards, I continued on for the next couple of years after that, just more courses.
Yeah, sure. I think I don't think a lot of people kind of realise or appreciate the amount of training that goes into acting.
Yeah.
Or appreciate, I think, that acting is like, to keep tight, you've got to keep working the muscle like in the gym, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't, then you kind of come back to it and you're not as great as what you were before. Yeah. So, I mean, it's great that you had that, you were able to look at yourself and go, okay, well, I think I plateaued, so I'll go back to training. Did you, during that period, and even, I guess, during your whole career, have you experienced many, how did that impact you from a mental perspective?
To go back?
No, not the go back training, but the not getting the work, like going from like, okay, well, I don't need to train because I'm getting plenty of work, to then not getting work. Did that have an impact on, I guess, your mental health or the way that you viewed yourself?
My self-confidence was impacted, definitely.
Okay.
I mean, it's very easy to fall into the trap of people don't like me, people must hate me, and you kind of get your mind goes into that bit of a spiral. And it's nothing against anyone. This is an industry where you can't really have grudges against people. Yeah. It's because people don't ever have that, but you fall into that spot pattern of thinking, that irrationality, and so that's more or less what I was going into. And when I decided to retrain, I contacted Nutella Zulishvili, who she runs a thing called Acting World, and I told her what was going on, and I was almost in tears when I told her. And she was doing a course in she's doing one of her sort of foundational sort of courses, and then she said, listen, I think I know what the issue is, and if you come in, like, we can sort it out. So I was able to, it was the Michael Chekhov course, and it was the first time she was running the course, and Chekhov was amazing, because it's all imagination and substitution and everything, and what it required of me was to just trust that it was all there and didn't go away at all.
Okay.
So
I think that's quite a common, you touched on something that I experience, and I don't have nearly as much experience as you, but I think it's probably something that a lot of people definitely experience, is that it must be me.
Yeah.
It must be something that I'm doing wrong.
Yeah.
I just think as human beings we personalise absolutely everything anyway. So obviously you went into training, and it's great that you had someone to kind of push you in that direction. Is there anything that you did, or anything that you do personally now to keep yourself, I guess, grounded, or to keep your mental health at bay with that kind of stuff?
Talking with colleagues is
Okay.
very important. I think it's, as I get older, I tend to find that the people who are still sticking around become more grounded in the industry as well, and they're not as, like, when you're young, you tend to be more arrogant and more, it's about me and all this other stuff, and the older you get, you become more seasoned, and it's like, no, it's about other people.
Yeah.
I'm doing this for other people. I mean, you don't turn up to a casting office just so you can get a role. You turn up so you can make the casting director look good in front of their clients.
Yeah.
You know, there's a knock-on effect.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't work with a director because you just want to work with that director because of the work that they've done. You want to make great art together. You know, so it's less about you and more about others. So if I'm talking to other people who get that and who are on that level, then that grounds me.
Okay. I think that's probably something I need to think about myself, which is a really good lesson probably for many people, is that ultimately we're all part of we're a cog in a much bigger machine to create something, not just be an actor and it's all about us.
Yeah, so it's important to humble yourself in this business, because it's never like the thing I learned about all that of, you know, maybe it's me, maybe they hate me, they don't like what I'm doing. It's never about me. It's never about whoever, you know, you or anyone else. Yeah. It's just everyone goes through highs and lows, you know. It's normal, and to humble yourself and to just go with the flow. Yeah. You know, if you're not getting work, create work. You know? Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's easier said than done, right? Yeah. Just, you know, I know. If you want work, make work. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've spoken to some people on the podcast recently who have created their own work, which is fantastic. Yeah. Have you done that in your past career? Yes. Because I was looking at your IMDb and it said writer director. Yeah. So what's some of the stuff that you've kind of created or developed in the past? Mostly short films. I co-produce short films that I've wanted to be part of, and I present a script to a director or a filmmaker or an actor that I've worked with or actress, and say, hey, do you want to do this? And that's pretty much the way I've kind of done, you know, conjured that up. If in the past I've been without the equipment to film something, like if I haven't had a camera, maybe I've got a bit of animation software on my computer, so I can make an animation. I can still create something. Yeah. There's still a script, there's still dialogue that I can record. I can buy a $5 microphone from Officeworks and still do the recording of the voiceover dialogue, stuff like that. Even though it's at a very sort of crude level, at that point in time, I'm still creating something. Yeah. So I'm always finding that opportunity to find great art to create with other people, and to make it as best as I can at that point in time.
Yeah, nice.
So it's not about trying to just sit by the phone and waiting for the agent to call.
No, of course.
Especially in the Australian industry.
Well, yeah, in the current global environment. How have you? Speaking of, actually no, I'll come back to that a bit later.
Sure.
With your career as long as it's been, I don't want to I don't need to labour on the point that you've been doing this for 20 years.
Sure.
But I think it's really important for people to understand that it is something that takes a long time to build. You don't wake up one day and go, right, I'm going to be an actor, and tomorrow I'm in Hollywood and everybody knows who I am. Did you, all those years ago, have a plan or a roadmap of where you wanted to be or where you wanted your career to go?
Yeah, I wanted to be over in LA by the time I was 30.
Okay.
And before then, I'd fortuitously come in contact with someone who was like, you should not go over there unless you're invited there. And in hindsight, I see how wise that was, because I've got colleagues there, some who are working, but a lot who aren't.
Yeah.
And it's a tough city. And especially it's tough in this environment right now with COVID. So
that's the first time I've ever heard that about don't go till you've been invited.
Yeah, you got to be hot. You've got to have done something here that generates heat for you over there.
Right.
At a festival or whatever. And I don't think there's any other way of doing it. I mean, maybe that's a limitation in my own thinking. Maybe not. I don't know. But I just feel that it's like it's a lottery.
Yeah.
To just go over there as a complete unknown. And if I went over there right this minute, if everything was fine, there was no COVID, but if I went there right this minute, I would be starting from ground zero.
Yeah, sure.
I would be in the middle of where I need to be, but at the same time, I would start from scratch. I would not even be. Yeah, I would have to make new contacts, find out where I'm. Aside from all the logistical side, it would be too difficult to start from that.
Okay.
And I don't think I've got, sadly, the passion to do that from scratch as I did 20 years ago. Because 20 years ago, it's easier when you're in your early 20s.
Yeah.
You're invincible. You can do all that.
Yeah.
But now it's like, well, I'm a little more seasoned, I'm a little more established here, so I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with not being over there.
Mm-hmm.
Where I am right now.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I would be in an advantageous position at all. And having seen some of my colleagues over there, and the fact that the work is quite limited, I just don't think it's a wise decision. At
what point in your career did you receive that advice?
Right before I was 30.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did that? Obviously, I'm getting the impression that was the right decision for you to stay and not move.
Well, the other thing too is I didn't really have much of a choice because I couldn't afford to.
Sure.
So I didn't really have much choice to, but I think I was kind of protected in that way, because for me, when I heard the advice, I was resistant to it. I was like, bullshit, whatever. That's your limited way of thinking. But as I've gotten older, and I've seen more people, you hear about actor X from Australia getting off the plane and, all of a sudden getting a role. They auditioned here. They do US castings in Australia.
Yeah.
They got known. They had an opportunity here before they went over.
Yeah.
They went over to get the recall and to see what they like. It's, I don't believe all that. It's nonsense. So to me, like when you start to know and you hear how things actually happen, it's like, okay, you start to accept that it's going to be a little bit trickier.
Sure.
But that's okay. That's what we're here for, So if it was easy for everyone, we wouldn't.
Well, yeah, it's a process, isn't it?
Yeah.
So obviously you had that advice just before you turned 30, and then as part of with the roadmap that you had of, okay, I'll move to LA before I'm 30.
Yeah.
Did that? Obviously, I'm making the assumption that changed your trajectory as far as what you're planning on doing is concerned, and you're still here in Australia. Was part of your roadmap, were there other elements of that roadmap of the type of roles that you saw yourself playing, or the type of actor that you wanted to be, and whether you were thinking, okay, this is my type, etc., etc.? Was there any of that was part of your plan or trajectory?
No, I was just willing to take anything. No, because I think here's the interesting thing is that some people look at you in a certain way, and you may have a certain appearance that draws you to a particular type of character or archetype of character, and I think I'm more open to that than I am. Every male actor wants to play a spy or a cop or the hero, but why not just let the beauty of life and the magic of other people's whatever they want to throw out there affect you and kind of sweep you off your feet and go, actually that's not a bad role at all. I've had one role that I went for where I was playing this really narcissistic prick, and it was for a TV pilot, and I was going in thinking I was going to read for the lead character, and I was in there in the audition, and the director said, "Oh, could you read for this character?" And so I was like, I don't want to. That guy's a bit of a prick, but I forced my own perspective on the character. So I was like, oh fuck it, I'll just do it. And then I read for the character, and I'm with the reader. And it was actually really fun.
Yeah.
I just had a laugh about it. I was like, oh, that's really good writing, sort of thing. And they said, well, we'll let you know. And sure enough, I got that role.
Amazing.
And I was like, the pilot never went anywhere, but it was just so fun just being able to explore that and just go, well, that was actually quite a fun little interlude, so.
Yeah, nice. The reason I asked that question is, as someone, I've personally been doing some kind of performing on and off since primary school, but only really properly putting in the hard work for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Hard work. I'll loosely use that.
It's relative. Yeah.
Putting in the work
the
last 3 years, and the types of advice that I get is you need to understand what your type is, and you need to be doing scenes and working towards that type, and because if you can prove that that's your type, then you'll get hired for that. And
but how do you know unless you've tried that?
Well, I don't. I just know what I'm told by my agent and by acting schools and whatever. This is you, and I think it's very easy. Although I know that I shouldn't.
Yeah.
I think it's quite easy for us to listen and take on board what other people say and be fixed on a mindset of, okay, well, that's what I am.
Yeah. I think it's important to balance that out. Have a view of what you'd like to do, but by the same token, just be open to other people's suggestions.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the projects that you've worked on. So you've got quite a healthy looking IMDb profile. Everything from short films, TV series, and some feature film stuff. What's the word? Cringiest experience as an actor so far?
I worked on a film called Dealing with Destiny, and we shot that in 2009, and we're shooting up in Vaucluse. I forget the name of the place where they shot it, but it was basically this sort of old house on a hill, and then there was a grassy knoll that went down to a little beach, and there was a scene in the film where basically the gist of the film is four friends playing pranks on each other on the last day of the university.
Okay.
So one of my friends plays the pranks on my character, and basically he replaces my board shorts with a G-string. And not just any G-string, it's a pink G-string with sequins on it. So we're on this private little beach, and I go through the scene, and then I have to put the G-string on before I go for my obligatory swim in the scene. And you know, there's some extras there and stuff, and so we're doing the scene, and then I've got to do the big reveal.
Right.
So because I'm so embarrassed in the scene, I've got to take the towel off. Anyway, unbeknownst to me, behind the camera crew, there is a group of old women. It's a walking group. No one in the production knew about this group.
They're not part of the film.
They're just walking, because there was a walking path along. And so they stopped to watch this scene of me just taking this towel off, because it's a close-up on my ass, and it's like, oh man. So anyway, I do the scene, and the director calls out, cut, you know, and then I hear this applause. And all these old women going, nice ass, like that. I was like, oh my God, which goes back to the whole fishbowl, idea, like people looking in of the film set, and it was just such a surreal moment, and I was so embarrassed, and I'm like, where did they come from? And the first AD is like, there's a walking track, and they just popped up.
Oh, hilarious.
Like the second AD was like, trying to shush them down. I had no idea they were there. Like, it was one moment, it was like blank sort of grassy knoll.
Yep.
Next moment, there's 30 old ladies there, wolf whistling me.
I love it. How old were you at this point?
I was 28.
Amazing.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, I don't think it gets any worse than that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, at least they said you had nice arms.
Yeah. Completely objectified, of course.
Because women haven't been going through that their entire lives.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it was a nice sort of moment that sort of grounded me in the moment, like of what it was I was actually doing, and how the elements, be they natural, human, whatever, can still interfere and still affect a set, no matter how tightly you have it under wraps, know. So but that was quite funny.
It would have been. I can just imagine like your MT running around trying to keep them all quiet.
He turned around. And he said, and they just walked out like, goggle eyed.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So,
is there something that you've worked on over? Oh, well, there probably is. What is something that you've worked on that you are particularly proud of?
I worked on, it was a pilot called Abandoned that I worked on, and it was with a director named Nathan Calhoun, and he came to me out of nowhere, kind of, I was working on a student film, and there was a young guy there named Steve, and he's like, oh, I know a director you want to work with. And I got this email from Nathan out of nowhere, and he's like, let's meet up for a coffee. And he said, I got something I think you might be interested in. And I just kind of met up with him, and he was discussing, at the time it was a short film, and it was basically about a father and daughter in a post-apocalyptic sort of era thing, and there were these two guys sort of pursuing them, and he wanted me to play one of the villains, and it was such a nice sort of working relationship that I had with him, because one, he wanted me to do this sort of big elaborate sort of fight scene in this short at the time. I was working with like a fight choreographer, and like it was like the meat and bones of what it was I wanted to do as an actor since I was a kid. Like it was like beat the bad guy, win the girl sort of stuff, but it wasn't that exactly.
Because you were the bad guy.
Because I was the bad guy. But it was like, wow, this is so much fun. Like this is where it could go. This is where my career could lead to.
Yeah.
And I've had a little bit of martial arts experience over the years. So I was able to kind of incorporate all that into the choreography and everything else, and it was just so, we were like covered in like mud, and it was like a real rough and tumble sort of scene, and we're really getting into it, and I just love working on it.
Yeah, sure.
It was such a gritty series, and it was such a shame that he didn't expand it. He actually went and did a web series, and he changed it all up, and he changed everything else, and unfortunately I wasn't included in the casting of that. But the experience of just working on the first one was great. It was just so nice to just have a director that was like, let's do something fun that's really, gritty and I don't know. I can't really quantify the experience to any particular word or feeling or anything. It was just to me, it was the most satisfying.
Okay.
We had a big premiere at the Renwick Ritz, and everyone was there, and we watched it, and I was just really proud of it. I don't know. It was something I really wanted to continue on with doing.
Nice.
But Nathan is out there. He's doing other stuff at the moment, and he's doing really well. I think he's in pre-production for another feature film.
Okay.
But best of luck to him, because he's one of the best directors I've worked with.
Yeah,
hands
nice.
down. So
I think those experiences that make us, whether you're obviously very proud of that particular film, but I think when we work on those projects that we feel it's super fun, and it kind of reminds us why we're doing what we're doing. Because do you ever experience working? Now I'm not going to ask you to name anything that you've worked on, but I know for me, I've worked on stuff in the past where I'm just like, what am I doing? My acting has been shit. The result is crap.
Yeah.
I haven't had fun. I feel, I've not felt it or loved it at the time. Have you experienced those kind of periods throughout your own career?
Yeah, look, before I answer that question, the way I view the projects I worked on, it's not like I have favourite projects like favourite children.
Sure.
it's so I wouldn't go so far as to say that was great, that was terrible. But there are some that you connect with better.
Sure.
But there have been projects that I've worked on, and it's been more the end result of what I've given, rather than what the end result of the film is as a whole, or the theatre, or whatever it might have been. Because if I felt like I've not done my job properly, if I'm watching a scene and I'm really self-conscious in that scene, or something that's something that puts me off about what I'm doing.
Yeah.
That upsets me. And I feel like I've failed the film or the project that I've worked on more than the project's failed me.
Right.
It's never that's the most important thing for me, is that if I've gone in there and I've done my job well, and I've enjoyed myself, and I like what I see of what I've done, not to say that I watch what I do and go, oh, I look pretty good, and it's more a case of, if those three variables are ticked, then it's cool, I'm satisfied with how it went. Even if the film turns out to be terrible, or it doesn't, people's response to it is, as long as I enjoyed it and I'm trying to give as a good sense of what the director wanted.
Yep.
In that's all that matters.
Okay. Do you, because you mentioned it in there, that there might, sorry, I'm just trying to remember the word that you used, but obviously you want to focus on giving a good performance. That's our job.
Yeah.
Is there anything? What am I trying to ask here?
Anything that I've done.
No, not necessarily if there is a specific thing that you've done that you've not felt positive in. But look, to your point, I wasn't necessarily suggesting is there projects that weren't good, because every project that I've worked on has had its own positives and negatives and whatever. But I do look at what the performance is that I'm giving. But then I'll come away and I'll think, I did really bad at that. That wasn't great. I guess what I was suggesting was that we as actors will all have those days, or we'll have those moments where we think, fuck, what am I doing? This is I gave a shit performance. I'm not a good actor. Blah blah blah. And then it's films like the one that you just talked about where you had so much fun, and I think it's those opportunities that remind us, this is what I'm doing this for, this is why I'm doing it, this is the feeling that I love having, because you're not necessarily always going to feel that every single job is the most amazing performance that you've ever I know for myself, speaking from my own personal experience, I'm not suggesting you, just, we go through those moments of like, well, just fuck. What am I doing? I'll go back. I should just stick with my corporate career and not be doing this. So.
Oh no, I understand, and I feel more the dread of like if there's a really if I'm on set for a big emotional scene, the pressure's on, and it's like, oh my god, like that the director wants me to burst out in tears, and they want me to break down and have this emotional response. I'm not feeling it. I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Traffic was.
Don't know if that picked up on the microphone. Kevin's asleep next to me, snoring all of a sudden.
But you don't know, and I think when you put yourself under that pressure, it usually turns out to be okay in the end. I don't usually get taken up by that too much.
Sure.
But I think.
But again, speaking from what you said before, I imagine that comes with experience.
It does.
Like you get. I'm still early on in my journey of being back into acting, so and I'm very self-critical. As a lot of people are. So I'm sure that will come with experience of just being like, fuck it.
You kind of just got to throw yourself into it and trust that the director knows what they're doing. I think that's all you can do. And if you don't have the trust in the director, what the hell are you there for? I think it's really crucial, because you're working as a team.
Yeah, definitely.
You need to trust that the sound guy is going to pick up everything that you say. You need to trust that the camera guy is going to get the correct shot size and the lighting on you perfectly. And the director's guiding your performance in the way that you want it to be guided. You're working as we're in a service industry. I think Russell Crowe said that once, and we're serving the script, we're serving the director, we're serving the production, we're serving the production house that's funding it, whoever. We are in service of others up until the final day of like performance or shooting or whatever. Like from casting through to the final day, you've got to be in service of that, of all the time, and that's the only way to do it. There's no other. I don't know of any other way to do it. And I think that's been tempered through the steel of my own resolve over the years, and it's been knocked into shape as a result of that, of the people that I've come across, of the industry types who've, I may have made certain mistakes. It's the only thing that I've learnt of the industry through constantly making mistakes and going, shit, that's not going to happen again. I'm going to be better next time, and constantly just refining and strengthening and tempering myself into someone that is of value to someone out there. I don't know who, but I don't know. I know it sounds all whimsical and bullshit and airy fairy, but it's like seriously, it's like with any job.
Okay. Cool.
I don't know how else to define it.
I think you've done a good job of defining it. So do you think now that you are at the point you want to be in your acting career?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
And do you have so I've achieved this in this time, do you have an idea of what you'd like to achieve now for the next decade, or?
Yeah, I'd like to be working overseas.
Okay.
And working with a variety of bigger directors, and on a variety of different projects, whether it be drama, comedy, science fiction, anything. I'm open to whatever's out there, and in my view, I think that's, like I said, it's the only way I know how to go about things. I like the mystery of life. You know, we're in a dream.
The life of a creative.
Yeah, that's the thing, and I think we can be suitably surprised by what comes around the corner without even thinking about it.
Yeah, sure.
Or expecting. I think expectation is the bedrock of disappointment.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a really interesting point. I think a lot of acting, I think, is around networking, right? And there's a lot of people, I think, in my own network at the moment who have a lot of expectation. Like they expect, okay, my agent is going to send me, or I'm going to get an agent, I'm going to get all of this work.
Yeah.
Or I don't have to train, or I don't have to spend money on anything because I've got an expectation of, okay, I'm out there now, so therefore the work will come to me, and then they get disappointed. I think I definitely have a number of friends who constantly go through the thought process of, I need to replace my agent because I'm not getting any auditions, because they expect that they're going to be auditioning constantly, all the time.
That's ridiculous. I mean, it's kind
I
of...
like that quote though. What did you say? Expectation is the bedrock of disappointment.
Yeah.
Is that yours? Can I quote that?
I think so, yeah. Maybe it's,
We picked it up from someone else?
I don't know. Maybe it's I don't know.
I like it. I think that might be the title of this podcast.
Just don't expect a good podcast.
Hey. Okay, so, I mean, look, it sounds like, you know, all things considered, your career is going really well. Do you have the luxury of only earning money through acting?
At certain stages, I've had it in the past. No, at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, I have side jobs that I work at and that put food on the table.
Sure.
You know.
What are the type of jobs you're doing at the moment?
Well, I work at Maniacs, so I teach people how to throw axes for competition.
That sounds scary.
It's actually quite fun.
I saw a video on, I think it was like a meme or something of a girl throwing an axe and hitting it and coming back right to her head, but she ducked quick enough for it to miss. It seems scary.
Yeah, I saw that video, and the way she would have thrown that would have meant, I think she would have had some practice, because that sort of thing would not have, she would have had to have thrown it at something at a certain angle for that to happen.
Right, okay.
There's no way in which that can literally happen if you're throwing it at
So it was on purpose, is what you're saying?
Oh yeah, totally.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
Good.
So
still scary as far as
I'm concerned. Totally. It was like, whoa, like when I saw it, I was like, Jesus, like, but still, it was, I think something like that is practice.
Okay.
I don't think, because I've worked with too many people and I've seen too many bad throws to know that that's just impossible.
Yep.
It's kind of like, you know, that scene in, I think it was Cocktail. I think it was Tom Cruise, he bounces a bottle off the ground or something, and they had like these bartenders trying to replicate the actual motion that he did, and they're like, that's impossible, you know, and they found out it was actually someone threw the bottle up or something like that. And so I think, I've seen too many people come in, and you know, the way that I've coached them and kind of gotten their technique, the way that I've trained them is so there's 100% safe sort of throwing, and there's none of that included.
Sure.
Yeah.
So is Maniacs your only side job at the moment?
No, I do events work, just like around the city town hall and stuff like that. So like front of house and whatnot. So but again, that's been affected by COVID, so that hasn't been as forthcoming in the last few months. So. But yeah, I try and the thing I try and do is I have a number of different jobs I go to. I don't have one job. I made a mistake of that a couple of years ago. It was about 2014 was the last time I had one job, and I was working at a call centre, and I put everything into that one job, like that was my source of income. And I started to read about this concept of anti-fragile or anti-fragility, and basically it was a way of making yourself into someone who was still susceptible to having the hard knocks of life push you about, push you to the floor sort of thing, but still having something to fall back into. So I thought, well, if I only have one job, I've got nothing to fall back into, and I don't want to be on the dole or any of that sort of, business. So I thought if I have a few different jobs I can go to, I've got the variety of having different jobs to go to, so I'm not bored by just having one side job, and also just the variety, just having that variety and not feeling as though if one falls under, that's it. I'm kind of, out on a limb, and it's like, oh shit, like I've got to find another job and quick.
Do you like with the stuff that you do at the moment, do you find that you have to compromise? Will I go to that audition or will I not go to that audition? Do you have to juggle between the two to be like, okay, income versus potential income?
No, I usually keep my days free. I work night, like evenings during the week and on weekends.
Okay.
So if I find that I keep the normal 9 to 5 hours free during the week, I can pretty much go to any casting unobstructed by that. And that was a hard lesson to learn. There were only so many phone calls where I could pretend to be sick, or someone's dog had died, or some crisis that would take me out of having to turn up for a shift in the middle of the day because I wanted to go to a casting.
Yeah, sure.
In terms of when you say go to a casting, are you talking in terms of artistic, whether or not I should do this project? Or?
No, I mean like basically what you're saying. Okay. Like, okay, I'm at work today. Yeah. I've been invited in for an audition. Yeah. I can't get time off work because I'm the only guy there. Yeah. So, there's you have to you really have to take that into consideration if acting is the career that you want to pursue, because it's casting agents, as you've just said, work 9 to 5 typically. Yeah. And most jobs are that, unless you're working in the hospitality industry. And I tend to find like events work's great because it is evening work and weekend work predominantly, which is fantastic. Same with Maniacs is all through, but I usually work weekends there. So it's mainly, I just take what I can get. Yeah. And whatever acting work I've got, like any castings during the week, I'm free to go to. I'm completely unobstructed by that. There are, few people that I know who have full-time jobs where they can take time off whenever they want to go to a casting. Yeah, interesting point that you just made there, I suppose, around not many people have a benefit of a full-time job. I'm quite lucky. I'm a contractor, so I can... I say I'm lucky because I'm a contractor. I'm not entirely sure that the people I'm contracting for would be happy with me saying this, but I mean, I pretty much decided 3 years ago when I got back into acting that acting would be the priority always. Yeah. And so if I take a day off work, it actually costs me quite a bit of money to not go into the office. But I made that decision that acting will always take a priority now. And I don't think a lot of people really appreciate the sacrifices that you need to make if you want to be an actor. I mean, I moved to the UK when I was 18 with this desire to become an actor. I mean, there were other reasons for moving as well, but I had no idea what it took to become an actor at that point in time, and the sacrifices that I needed to make, or the work that I needed to do to become it. I had that expectation of, okay, I'll be an actor. I'm going to be an actor. I'll go away and do this. I'll move to the UK. I'll get an agent. That's all I need to do. I'll just get there. And then I got a job in a call center. That gave us our shifts for the entire year. Wow. And if we ever took a day off, or if we ever called in sick or whatever, we were dragged across the coals for taking the day off, because it has such an impact on the people calling in and my colleagues, etc. So I got to a point where I was saying no to the extras agency that I had. They're like, okay, well, we're not calling you anymore because you always say no. And then that kind of prompted there were other things that I won't bore you with right now, but other things that prompted a hiatus. But that was, I guess my point is, I didn't understand what it really took to kind of make it or get where I wanted to be as an actor, which is
it's a huge commitment, and I think the gravity of that, you start to know when it affects other things. Say a boss finds out you've gone to a casting, when you were meant to work, and you've reaped the consequences of that. Maybe they fired you, maybe they give you a warning, or
does that happen to you?
No, but it's happened to other people that I know, and I know how unfair that can be. But on the grand scale, their perspective is different, and it won't change no matter how much you try and force your point of view onto the other person and say, well, but look, because they'll say, but we've got a business to run.
Yeah, of course.
So it's very hard to strike the balance. So I think if you make that sacrifice for yourself to work at particular times, very similar to what I've done, then it's quite doable. But that also comes with a few caveats as well. And I've had to learn to live with that. So that's just it. That's just the nature of the beast. And unless I'm working on a series full time, that will remain. But that's something I've accepted, and I've been through all that mental, am I doing the right thing? Maybe I should get a full-time job, I should quit and all that. But that's normal. That's a normal thing. And the reality is, even if I walked away from it, I'd just come back. I'd just walk back with the tail between my legs and think, why did I ever, what was the point of that? But I think the point of it is to learn and to grow from that, and to be a better person, and to stay true to yourself and true to your art.
Okay, well look, I'm going to ask one final question based on what you've just said. So, if you were to quit, you'd come back with your tail between your legs. What is it about acting and about this industry that keeps you here? Why would you come back? What is it about it?
I think I'll learn more about myself through it, and more about life. I love the variety that's involved in the work. There's an anthropological sort of aspect to it. There's a humanities aspect to it. It's being part of something that's bigger than you. It's creation in its most sort of purest sense. Filmmaking or theatre making, it's the culmination of many arts into one. And I've always had a sort of creative drive since I was a kid, and I've always been drawn to that. And so to not be part of that is to lie to myself. I wouldn't be doing it. I would not be doing it. It's kind of like I would feel that the urge to return, no matter how many times I walked away. Look, I get it.
because I think I've experienced the same thing myself.
Yeah.
Cool.
And no, I think that's normal, and it's not something to be resistant towards. I think it's insanity to think that you're being a rational person working a 9-to-5 job in an irrational world.
Yep.
That's not what life's about. You know, life's a dream. You know.
Certainly feels that way sometimes.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for spending some time with me. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Good luck with the next decade and getting overseas.
Yeah. Good luck with everyone.
Don't expect too much though, because you'll be disappointed.
Yeah. I know, I'm a Simpson thing. Yeah.
All right. Thanks very much.
No, thank you.